Let's think about some stuff. Welcome back, friends, to an exciting episode 3 of the second season of the podcast, affectionately referred to as No Other Life, in spite of the fact that it's actually referencing a broader project called No Other Life, and in fact has a second podcast now referred to as Upstaged, which I encourage you to go track down wherever you found this one. Last time we were talking about how to work our way backward from something that's going on now on some lineage in the world, and through a variety of questions, finding what was the germinal stimulus that got us to wherever we were. And I mentioned at the tail end of that episode that if you were to look at that episode 1 draft that you created of your 30-second elevator pitch about yourself, or even the 10-minute, 5-minute speech about yourself, you could begin to work your way back from some of these hallmarks of yours, these characteristics, qualities, and traits which you're proud of, things that you lead with when you talk about yourself with other folks. And it's really going to get pretty interesting right here. If you did do that, and I wanted to give you the benefit of the full week to think about it, because if you did, you're going to get some special realization here. And if you didn't, take my word for it, but still go out and try it at some point because it'll be worth your effort. When you take all of these different traits, like I'm an excellent godfather, and I love to make music, and I enjoy talking to people, and I try to be compassionate, and I have this job, and I live in this city, and all of these things come together on their own respective lineages. And you're asking those questions. How did I get to this penultimate node? Work your way backward. Oh, well, how is it that I was equipped to be able to have the life experience that would allow me to get to that step? And boom, boom, you work your way back. And eventually, for each of those, you end up at that germinal stimulus, which, as I said, is often a thing that you kind of fall into, something that you weren't planning in any way. And that's one of the beauties of life, is there are so many things that if you just show up, there's a chance your life could change. It's documented elsewhere that when I do this procedure to find out why is it that I am who I am today, every single thing heads back to a music class in 5th grade when I watched the movie Amadeus, or a few scenes of it even, for the very first time. Everything comes back to that point. And I hope that you found something similar to this. And honestly, I suspect that you did, because when you work your way back, you will realize that you are hitting a lot of the same events of life. And it's not just that you work one way back and you work the other way back and then they diverge again. No, because once you hit a point where you were learning to dance and you were also realizing how much you like Italian food, well, it all came from that same class where there was dancing followed by a potluck. I don't know, but once you have reached that point in reverse, then it doesn't diverge again. You're on the same path. And so let's say that when you were a kid, you wanted to be an astronaut, but things didn't work out right. You didn't get into the school that would have done that. So instead, you took some other classes that you weren't expecting to, that caused you to meet a friend who would become your roommate. you ended up going to a concert with them, but the amplifier broke, and so you ended up leaving early. But when you left early, what'd you find out on the sidewalk but an injured dog? And so you take that dog into your care, you've got this friend with you, all of a sudden you're thinking, I might like to be in pre-dog med. And so you go to veterinary school where you find the person who you would spend your life with, et cetera, et cetera. And it all came from the fact that you didn't achieve at being an astronaut or even come close to the school where they would have taught you that. Does that make you regret that you didn't get to be an astronaut? You know, I talk to people sometimes and I say, I expect that you are not a unicorn-riding ballerina princess in outer space. And of course you're not, but you don't care because that was a childish, foolish idea that you had when you were 5. And that may be true. But then does that mean that there's some cutoff where anything you used to think you were going to do is sometime or somehow now something you should feel bad about? What if your dream was 5 days ago, yesterday, and now you're on a different path? You got to think about that. So when you are dealing with your life in such a way that you are working your way backward, this is called decision point navigation, and it is excellent for finding your way backwards. It will always give you an answer to the question, how did I get here? You know, you wake up sometimes and you're like in a hotel or maybe the hospital, who knows, and you just have no idea where you are. That is what we're talking about here, because in real life sometimes if you step back, you say, wait a minute, I was going to be an astronaut and now I'm a veterinarian? How did this happen? Work your way back. You'll figure it out. And the interesting thing about this whole process is that you can do it for anything. You can do it for a characteristic, an achievement, anything at all, you can work your way back. And you will realize that things start to converge. You'll soon realize those people in your life who you need to be thanking every single day because they were the one that put you on the path to something that you never dreamed of. But when you look back at it, you think, it is an absolute miracle that I ended up where I did. And you know, if you think about it in the right order, not an astronaut, school, roommate, concert, injured dog, it looks like a lightning bolt that a kid would draw. And you say, with all that zigzag, how did I possibly end up where I am today? And that's the beautiful thing about DPN is you don't see the zigzag because you're working backward. And when you work backwards, the cool thing happens. It's perfectly laid out. There is no other way that you could achieve the life that you did. Every single thing you did, every mistake you've made, everything you're tempted to regret led you to where you are right now, sitting, listening to this, riding an exercise bike, running through the park. I don't know. But there was only one combination that got you there. And when you open up a book with the children's mazes in it, right? And it's hard to go through because you might hit a dead end here or there. So what did I do when I was a kid? I would start at the end, and there's only one way, because when you go from the end to the beginning, you don't get to have those strange nodal breakpoints. You just keep going. And so you think about this and you plot it out. It looks like a lightning bolt. But what happens when you plot this out as showing all of the possibilities. I like to say life is a series of forks at which you've already made countless decisions and whose alternate paths exist only in your imagination. So when you chose to go from this node up the A path, you passed up on the B path and the C and maybe 10 others. And then you had a simple binary choice of east-west, and you went east, but you avoided west. And so for every beautiful node on your DPN, springing off of it are all of these additional options. And you'll never know what would have happened if you had taken them. But what you do know is that if you went off in this direction, you would have kept yourself from doing some of what you did do. Now, that doesn't mean to say that everything is irrevocable. Once you make a mistake or change your direction, you can't get back there. You can. That's the beauty of it. These are going to overlap later. But the thing to remember and to keep with the beauty imagery, what do you get when you start at one germinal stimulus? You work your way up and you go left instead of right, but if you'd gone right, you could have gone east and west. You end up with a tree. And you are on one branch of one limb of one twig and another twig, and you're way off at the end right now of one twig. And there are millions of others. This is your tree of possibility. It shows what your life is, what it could have been. It's not to make you regret and say, oh man, I ended way over here on the left and I wish I had been over on the right. No, it's just showing you the vastness of the world, the vastness of the human experience. You can do anything you want and you'll always get where you're going. Think about it. And don't forget that you have made all the right decisions to get you where you are today. And if anything about your existence makes you happy, gives you joy, lets you help other people, you did it right. You did it right. Keep working on these. Now that you know where I'm going with that DPN model, think about anything. Pick something out of a hat that's happened to you. And then work your way back, and again, and again, and again. And you will find why you are with the person you're with, why you love the type of movie you like, why your favorite sports team isn't from the town you live in, why you love to work on various crafts and projects, and why you drive the car you do. All these are answerable, and I suspect many of them point to the same germ. What a world. Take care of yourselves, friends. You have no other life.